All right, here we go. It's finally official. The Raiders are rolling the dice on Antonio Brown.
Jets, 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 Jets!
Did you see what I did there? Roll the dice, Las Vegas. Pretty good. All right, before I get into the video, I want to formally announce this Tuesday at 9 o'clock at night, I will be doing a live call-in stream. You guys will be able to call in with all your questions regarding all the NFL hot topics around the NFL. If you have a question you'd like to see answered, drop a comment down below in the comment section, and I will go over it, and I'll have your name pop up on the screen. The man who calls himself Mr. Big Chest has turned his name into Mr. Big Checks. Antonio Brown has gotten a new deal from the Oakland Raiders to the tune of 3 years, $54 million with $30 million guaranteed. It's rumored that Antonio Brown's new contract is high in vitamin D, which we know is a sticking point because he sported a milk mustache over the course of the last few months. 3rd and 5th round picks, that's what Antonio Brown is being shipped off to Oakland for. Now, I think this makes sense for the Raiders and for Brown because neither one of them knew where they were going to play in 2019. As a Steeler fan, I'd have to imagine this is a bittersweet feeling. You're happy that this saga is finally over, but a 3rd and 5th round pick is not the compensation you wanted to see for Antonio Brown. The rumored deal, we may never know for sure, but the rumored deal when he was going to go to Buffalo was going to be that the Bills were dropping back from 9 and the Steelers were jumping up from 20. So they would have at least had a higher top 10 pick in that circumstance. With Brown blocking that trade and refusing to play in Buffalo, it absolutely tanked his value on the open market. So the teams that were able to trade for him or the teams that he wanted to go to were narrowed down so sharply that the Steelers were really put in a tough position. Now, sure, you can argue that getting 2 draft picks is better than swapping 1 draft pick, but the chances of those draft picks actually turning out and panning out in the NFL is relatively low. The other part of this is that the Steelers are eating the $21 million cap hit from the accelerated contract due to the signing bonus of Brown's former deal. So the $7 million per year that was divvied out for that signing bonus all accelerates to this season. Now, the Steelers do get a little bit of salary cap relief because Bell did not play last year, so the $14.5 million that he was due goes back onto their cap, so it's really more of a $7 or $8 million cap hit, but it's, the Steelers are still feeling that. They should have had Bell for last year, and they should have had Brown moving on for the next 3 years. Now, as I'm recording this video, the contract details have not fully been released. We do know that it's a $30 million contract, but we don't know what cap numbers it'll be for those 3 years. One would have to imagine that the $30 million guaranteed is going to be paid out over the first 2 years of this contract, so the Raiders should be able to cut Brown after 2 years in the event that his play does decline. Now, Raider Nation is in an interesting spot because you would have thought that they were tanking to try and get as many draft picks as possible to try and revamp that entire team, but you can actually argue that Amari Cooper to Antonio Brown is a much higher production receiver. Even though Amari Cooper is way younger, you'll get more production out of Brown. Khalil Mack, that trade, obviously it looks bad this year because Khalil Mack dominated in Chicago, but you have to take into account Chicago did play the easiest strength of schedule, and paying a defensive player $20 million is a tough task to offer up, especially in today's NFL when offenses basically run the entire league. With the Raiders owning the 4th pick, they're going to be in prime position to land one of Nick Bosa, Josh Allen, or Quinnen Williams. So there is a potential chance that they could replace a portion of the production that they got from Khalil Mack. Now, what does this mean for the landscape of the AFC and for our Jets? Well, obviously, the Jets could have gotten significantly better by giving up a 3rd and a 5th round pick. We do have those draft picks. But at the same time, the Jets have spent a lot of time and a lot of resources in rebuilding this locker room by bringing in Jamal Adams and Sam Darnold to try and revamp the culture within the Jets organization. I think adding Antonio Brown would have thrown a wrench into that entire situation. Now, I'm not particularly high on Antonio Brown. I don't like that he bailed on his team while they were in desperate need to get into the playoffs in that final game. They needed him there. Brown bailed on his team because he wasn't voted team MVP. That honor went to Juju Smith-Schuster, even though Brown had 15 touchdowns this past year, which is a career high for him. Now, as far as an NFL landscape goes, the Steelers are in a drastically different position than they were this time last year. They've lost 2 of the 3 killer bees that made their team so great, but it can be argued that James Conner and Juju Smith-Schuster will be able to replace the production that both Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown provided to the Steelers. Now, as far as the Raiders go, they are significantly better by bringing in Antonio Brown. A third and fifth round pick is a relatively cheap price for the production you're going to be getting out of this decade's best wide receiver, at least from a production standpoint. But does it actually move the needle for the Raiders? I'm not sure if it does. They still have a division with the Chargers and the Chiefs that they have to try and get out of just to make it into the playoffs. And the Broncos really aren't that bad of a team either. You can argue that the overall roster of the Broncos is significantly better than what the Raiders' current situation is. Now, obviously, with 3 first-round picks this year and 2 first-round picks next year, that landscape could change quite a bit. We do expect Derek Carr and Antonio Brown to be able to sustain their level of play for, at least the next few years. So while Oakland is significantly better today than they were yesterday, does this improve their odds to make the playoffs? I don't know. Only time will tell. Let me know what you guys think down below. As always, go Jets.